Welcome to Dynamics Corner. This is Kris.
And this is Brad. This episode was recorded on January 10th, 2023. Kris. It's great to be back after a break for the Christmas
New
and
year,
New
new
Year's
season.
Yes, for our first recording of 2023. I'm both excited about and looking forward to what 2023 brings for everyone. I feel optimistic that it is going to be a great year. And in this episode, we had the opportunity to speak with someone about a topic that has perplexed and fascinated me for quite some time. We had the opportunity to sit down with Kamil Karbowiak and discuss the topic of AI and how it will rule the world. All right, you look beautiful. Ready? Kamil.
Hey, Kamil.
Happy
Hello.
New
Welcome
Year.
back, man.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for being with us. This is our first podcast for 2023. And I hope that you had a great holiday and were able to spend some quality time with your family and have some time to rest and relax. And
Yes,
I have
did.
been looking forward to this. Unfortunately, we were communicating prior to the holiday break about an interesting and fascinating topic. And we started sharing and exchanging conversation, and that is about when the ChatGPT AI chat. If anybody hasn't heard about that yet, then I don't know where they've been, because that's dominated the space. But how AI
you should explain it a little bit, what that is and where it's located. That may help. For
No, I
those
will.
that-
I will. Yeah, I will. But that's something I've been looking forward to. So in essence, so what I wanted to talk with Kamil about, because it is something you have a lot of information on and something you work with, is AI and artificial intelligence. And back, I think it was, there's an organization called OpenAI, and it's an AI research and deployment company, and they have a mission of artificial and general intelligence that benefits all humanity. See, I like how that is, how they phrase that. And they have a highly autonomous system that is intended to outperform humans at most economical, valuable work. And they, again, like I had mentioned, they want to benefit all of humanity, and they want to generate safe and beneficial, artificial intelligence, and they want to, aid others to achieving whatever outcomes they have. Now, I had first worked with OpenAI back with DALL-E 2. Back in August of 2022 is when I was, first started working with it, and Kris and I had some conversations about, and that was a natural language, AI, I guess you could call it, to generate photographs, based on something that you would type in. And then back in, I think it was November of 2022, OpenAI released the ChatGPT chatbot based on their GPT-3 family. Mm-hmm. So I had some more information about this too. And I think it's a fascinating conversation to have about how AI is going to take over the world.
Yeah, definitely. Well, just to briefly tell the story about how this came to be. The fascinating piece that I can add to it is that one of the co-founders of ChatGPT and OpenAI actually is from a city nearby that I am in, just called Klutborg, and one of the guys that actually. His brother studied at the same university, so we came to know this person as well at some point, and very, very fascinating story about how he transitioned and how he grew with all his mathematical knowledge, and how he co-created the whole OpenAI idea along with Sam and Elon Musk at some point. So yeah, and speaking about outreach, 5 days to reach 1 million users. So this is huge. This is just to put it into perspective, Instagram that took them 2.5
Yeah.
months.
So you have a personal connection
That
to
that
OpenAI.
that's interesting and both exciting. I mean, the Chat GPT, as we talk about a natural language model, right? Or natural, do they call it a natural language model? Is that the proper term?
Natural, natural language processing, so NLP. I guess you could say that, and ChatGPT being one of the versions, one of the most recent versions of this development. That brings me to I think one of the interesting pieces. If you watched AI from Steven Spielberg, and if you remember Dr. No. There was this machine over there where you can just ask the question about the blue fairy and turning a robot into a real boy that was asked. And you had to actually outline three or two subjects. So you needed to orientate this AI into what you wanted to, connect fairy tales and things like that, and then it would give you the answer. So I think that ChatGPT already beat that in that game. So we're I think we're ahead of this because when you look at it, what it presents as an answer, it actually tells you that this is fiction, and this is funny
Wow.
how you can actually describe this and ask the question, and it's going to tell you the answer, and it's going to tell you that it's a fiction, so you shouldn't be actually looking into believing and not to confuse the two.
It puts a disclaimer right there.
Well,
Yeah.
with the natural language processing, the intent is that you can write in normal conversation. And I don't know if ChatGPT works with other languages other than English. I've worked with it quite a bit with an English,
Polish as well.
and it works in Polish with Polish as well.
Yeah.
So, thank you for that. I will have to try that. Not that I know Polish, but I know Google Translate. Grandpa Google knows all.
Yeah.
So
You can write translations.
You can type. Oh, it can type translations. We'll have to do some experimenting because this flooded everywhere once it came out back in November. I first saw it, and it flooded LinkedIn. It flooded Twitter. It was on the finance news. It was all over the place. This wasn't just one small segment of media where this was getting coverage. It was all over. So I have experimented quite a bit with ChatGPT, having conversations, even asking it questions about itself. And I also have watched other, videos as well as images and dialogue with people asking ChatGPT questions, and it's been amazing.
We should do a
just one
round
thing to
table
go
of how
back.
you guys used it.
Yes, ChatGPT I found was originally released in 2020, and it's under the Generative Pre-trained Transformer 2. And then in November of 2022, they came out with the GPT version 3, which is a larger language model and approach to transfer learning. So, and then I asked, this is a quote, and this is what I asked ChatGPT, what is ChatGPT? And it said, ChatGPT is a conversational language model developed by OpenAI. It is based on the GPT, Generative Pre-training Transformer architecture, which is initially trained on a large corpus of text data to generate human-like text. ChatGPT is fine-tuned specifically for the task of conversational response generation, which means that it is trained to generate text that is appropriate as a response to a given input in a conversation. This fine-tuning is done using a dataset of real-world conversational exchanges, such as those that might be found in a chatbot application. It can be used for several applications, such as creating a bot, generating dialogues and fiction, etc., with fine-tuning and task-specific training. ChatGPT can be used to generate responses that are relevant to a wide variety of conversational contexts and use cases. So that was the start of a conversation. I think where you and I had an initial dialogue with this ChatGPT along training, but
Yeah, Yeah, well, the Chat GPT. I think the GPT-2. First, I've seen it at some point, and I started even showing some use cases on the conference. Is something that actually leaked to media at some point that you could generate text about. And Guardian, I guess, in the UK published this a year ago or something like that about generating texts about whatever the subject, and that this is a concept that is quite dangerous because everyone's going to be now trying to figure out whether it's a fiction or not. So this is, there's a lot of interesting pieces around this subject because I don't know if you're aware, but already works and ChatGPT is already forbidden in New York schools. That's what I've
Yeah,
heard recently. So this is
that's
really,
true.
it's going fast, right? So we can see in a nutshell what happens with the real societies about what is the way to go about it, just like with any technology that came in the past. And I remember uh, when I was delivering one of the lectures at Directions in Orlando. I remember when I had an example of the cars, yeah, and cars when they first
Hmm.
came to roads, and you had this, how do we manage this now? We need to have a bellman, walking in front of the car, and that was our way of doing it. But actually, it's interesting how people and how mm, the society will interact with it. I know that there are already some coders that are just thinking about, banning it. Also, I don't know if it's there's one, there is concept of where do they get the data sets, right? So, when you have one of the websites for coders where you could ban access, right? So they're trying to ban access from the ChatGPT to learn from those libraries of code, because what you can do is just write code very quickly and even correct code. One of the subjects that actually Wojciech Zaremba, one of the co-founders, is worked on is Codex. So this part of ChatGPT, which is uh, totally directed into code generation in various languages and things like that. Uh, what I find fascinating about this subject, I don't know, know about you guys, but it's the concept of learning something faster. And I am fascinated by it a lot. That we can learn much faster about the topic that we didn't know about, and we want to, it brings me to one quote that I was even asking ChatGPT, where is this quote coming from? And it didn't find this. So there's some things to learn. I'm looking at my notes about it. Where was it?
Well, I think you're looking for your quote. I think we've all worked with Chat GPT. I know I've used it for a lot of things. I've had conversations with it. I've used it to ask it from the Business Central point of view how
Yeah.
to do things within Business Central. I did experiment it with AL code as well as creating poems. Kris, you have done quite a bit as well. I know you and I have had some conversations. And Kamil, when you find that quote, you can jump in and let us know. I mean, what are some of the areas that you've used it, Kris, as well? I know that we
Yeah,
shared some experiences, but you had some interesting conversations with the AI.
I did. So, in our space and dynamics, I've asked it to perform a kind of a one-on-one selling process. So I needed some information because I was working on a potential client that's looking into NetSuite. And so I don't know enough about NetSuite. So I had a conversation with ChatGPT. Okay, what's the differences, right? And we had a full conversation, and it came to the point where, you know what? I want to ask it if it was a sales account executive that sells Business Central, and I asked it to act that way, and to ask me a series of questions, and I would respond, and I told it to wait for my questions wait for my answers per question. And we have a full conversation. And at the end of all of that, I mean, it asked me about 10 questions, really good questions, gave it some random answers. It took all of that information and kind of summarized it at the very end. And then it asked me if I wanted to reschedule my time so it can give me a demo. And based on my budget and on my timeline, and it tried to convince me that I need to go ahead and schedule right away so that we can meet a 6-month timeline with $100,000 budget. And it just kind of gave me all the full recommendation. And it did a really good job. And it kind of led me to the question is, if you tap this as if it was your sales rep, your sales account executive, it will do the job for you. Once that API is open and you can tap into it, that's a possibility, because it did a good job. It convinced me. I was like, yeah, I want to get a demo.
I don't think there's an area that's untouched, because I did the same thing. I asked it how to do things in Business Central. How do I post a general journal? How do I do this, from the Business Central point of view? And another thing, I don't think there's an area of the world that this can't benefit, right? It's not just from Kamil. You talked about coding. Did you find your quote, by the way?
Yes, the quote is really cool. I think it says, "Knowledge isn't free. You have to pay attention," and that's
a good
it up,
quote.
because the only thing is the limitation is our ability to ask questions and to be to thrive into getting yourselves better. And I always talk about this concept about AI helper, and I believe in this concept that we can help each other do something better, do something faster, more robust, and we're humans. We're also not about the bias thing, but we make mistakes, and those mistakes can be corrected with AI. And like you said, it's untouched territory. Now we can touch pretty much anything. And I had my conversations as well. I was even looking into specific areas of data science, and I didn't know about a particular subject during the conversation with the potential customer, or I wouldn't even call it the customer. It's a project that we're going to be doing, and it was about an area that I didn't have experience in. And while at it, I asked ChatGPT to help me with this subject, so I could orientate myself very quickly about what are the most important topics about this and that. And then this allows us to even focus further in on this 1 hour conversation or a meeting. Even if I don't have the knowledge about certain piece of the subject or industry, I can very quickly go into that, read about it, and be more, I would say, open to a lot of questions and a lot of knowledge that will be coming from that, and acting as a consultant on a higher level, I would say. Yeah. So there's a lot of that in this as well.
See, you hit a key few points there, where you can have this dynamic interaction with ChatGPT. Kris had talked about how he had spoken with it in the context of a sales call and some things to ask. If he was going the other way, it's something that he could take and ask a prospect for business. And an interesting, and I've heard I've been paying a lot of attention to this, and I've heard a lot of uses of this. And someone even brought up and started approaching dynamic advertising. Right. So we are now advertising right now. Advertising is people use advertising. There's lots of ways that they target advertising, but now it literally could be dynamic advertising for that person based on AI. And it has a lot of uses. And also a few points to this of note that we wanted to catch up with earlier. On January 4th, 2023, Microsoft announced that ChatGPT will be in the Bing search engine starting, I believe, in March. And then this morning, I read the announcement that Microsoft is going to invest $10 billion in the funding of ChatGPT, which, where will that go? I don't know. But that to me shows that there's a lot behind this, and there'll be a lot of uses of AI with this. And one question that came to my mind that you and I started talking about, one is, how does one train artificial intelligence? You hear this training of the network. And two, when does it become a point where there isn't any information available and then the AI gets trained upon itself? Meaning everybody's, I saw articles where people posted, write me a, finance article as if it was from Forbes talking about this. So now if somebody publishes that and posts that on the internet, and this AI engine uses that to train itself, right? Now you start building up all this information that ends up being driven from AI. Is there a point to where, I think what's that whole toaster experiment? Build me the toaster or something. What was that? What's that? I forget what that is. And it's at what point do we, there's a couple questions that I have in there. I'm not versed enough about the training and how it learns and how quickly it goes, and definitely how to use a language model. But the first thing that came to my mind is I see everybody posting everything, and it's like,
and what you do is you've got this models with adversary, which basically is the like button or do not like this, and you give it a feedback, and then it trains itself again, and it does it constantly all over every every hour of every day. So there are two things, yes, it learns, and I guess it learns because that why would you want the thumbs up and thumbs down on things, and even Power BI on on some of the things that we can see on Microsoft when they give you the recommendations for specific visuals, if you liked it or not. This is exactly the same purpose. So you want to train it, and you want to train it well. The other concept, the other aspect that you touched on is, and by no means I'm no expert in this, when it's gonna end. But I know that there are already there is some guy that published something on detecting whether an article or and this is again connected to the New York schools where they banned it, and then
AI generated.
the AI generated pieces, because it drives me to it's good in a way that it helps us, but then you have got those kids, and they need to learn how to be how to use that knowledge, how to pay attention, how to
No,
pay how to be knowledgeable.
I understand
about
your
this,
point. So if they have a model to detect if something's generated by ChatGPT, I've done quite a bit with it. I take one of the things that I've always used and I have used is to augment some of my correspondence. I use Grammarly, right, which helps you from I don't know for other language, but from the U.S. language to put things properly based upon the context of what you enter to it. So I have taken some things from ChatGPT because in some cases the dialogue or the narrative that you return isn't so properly worded, right?
Yeah.
So now if you take ChatGPT, you push it through something such as Grammarly, which is another tool to form it properly. Now, how do you go about starting to detect things that were generated by ChatGPT versus a person sharing knowledge? And, I like your quote or the quote that you're referencing because it is true. You almost can use this to augment something, right? You don't use it so that it's solely doing it, but you use it to help perform a function to save you time. And then you can capitalize on that with different output. But I know you work with AI, but how does the AI network learn, right? Like I hear this, are you versed with that as far as how somebody, not necessarily ChatGPT, but artificial intelligence in general? I hear these terms, you have a network or neurals or neurons and all this other stuff. And how does an AI system learn to become proficient in
so
whatever it
yeah.
needs to do, right? I know there's different, ChatGPT is a natural language processor to have a lot of information scoured off the internet. And I think it was through, what is it, September 2022? I mean, there was a certain date that they trained it through. So anything that happened after that point, it's
Yes.
not aware of.
Yes. Yeah.
But how does it learn?
No, it goes through iterations. It goes through iterations, and until the model is not so it is a certain version of the model. So it's not training; it's just adding additional pieces to it, and then there's going to be another iteration of GPT-4 where this. That's what I suspect. Where it's going to learn based on all of those additional answers that people that we gave it as a feedback. Yeah, so it might not learn at this moment, but it will at the next iteration. So to your point, it has to be a new model that will be adding those data points, those additional pieces of information into whatever the neural network that they programmed to do it. Yeah, so it's not. It's not that it's constantly learning, although we would think that it is. It's it's a specific model that has been trained on the levels of data, and now it knows the connection between different layers of the text. Something that I touched on with the Dr. No, that you gave it certain specific subjects, so it knows that based on vectors of words, yeah, between the words and connections between them, you get to know what topic is this question related to. Yeah, in plain, I would say, as plain as I can explain this, and yeah. So
this is all. I can't even fathom how this all gets done. All I know is I type in how do I post a journal in Business Central, and it comes back with step 1. Choose a batch. Step 2, enter a document number. It's just it's mind-boggling to me that you can type in anything, and there's been very few instances where I didn't get an answer. Now with AL with coding, I did receive incorrect answers, and I was going back to it saying, no, that's not how you do it. You do it like this, and then in the conversation it progressed to where it was something that I thought was satisfactory.
Yeah.
Well, it acknowledges that it was wrong. It's like, you're right, I'm wrong.
I don't.
Yeah,
I apologize.
Even that. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
I
just like just like testing it when I think it was at Ignite when Sam Altman was showing Codex version to Satya Nadella, and then they were talking about this thing correcting itself and then giving it passing the testing results that were too easy. So then it retested itself based on on faulty answers or faulty data sets that it gave itself for testing of the code. So for me, it's also it's a huge subject and a huge accomplishment what they've done. And speaking of the Microsoft piece. That they acquired 49%, or they will acquire 49% of OpenAI. I think that this is another subject because I wanted to touch on this, that at the moment it's unbiased in a way that, yes, it is biased in the way that it worked. It learned based on the internet and all of those all of the data sets that it's been given, but it will not give you an answer that is, that it doesn't have a human nature of caching some information from you. It just gives you plain knowledge, right? It doesn't have any intention of
misguiding you. Yeah.
Misguiding you and obscuring some information. So if you give it a, how would you save the planet? It would give you the instructions of what it's been, what's been on the internet about saving the planet, about saving the climate and whatever. And you should do this. And it's not going to tell you you should do this, but this is what what my model tells me that it's good for the planet.
So
And
somebody has to define a source for the data, and then it will return the data that it processes from those pieces. Can it connect pieces of data together? Again, because it's odd. It's almost like everyone's used to using search engines, right? And search engines for like Google and all this, and now you can take it to a different piece of a different level. Is can it take multiple sources, process them, put them together to come out with a unified output? And my mind just goes all over the place with this because I can
exactly.
see it both of benefit and detriment to any area because of the information that you have. And I could see that, okay, we can take all of the, I'll date myself here, take all of the encyclopedias, for example, and digitize them and then train a model for it, right? Or any other, thesis or pieces of, research that or instructions that someone has. But is there a point where nobody does anything anymore because they rely solely on this and nobody knows anything or nobody does anything?
Exactly, and then that's to my point about the acquisition. If you think about someone, a body, a company, because when I looked at and felt that OpenAI is this new idea that is formed by by a group of people very knowledgeable about certain topics, and it's going to be unbiased. It's going to tell you this, and this is going to be truth, the truth only. Now it's now it might be a little bit different, and then coming back to the knowledge piece, if you get the young generation to rely solely on that, and then it's not going to be giving you the truth, then you're going to have a source of untruth, if you like. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if we almost can become stagnant in a sense because nobody does anything new. That the number of individuals doing actual, I guess you could say, research and proof would decrease because others would, like you had mentioned, in the school system, theoretically could, I write all my research papers based upon something like ChatGPT.
But then, going back to this, I think the human nature as well is that we like to progress on something, and then let's believe that this is going to be the story of ChatGPT, that it's just another advancement that's going to get us somewhere, and hopefully there's going to be a nicer place than it is now, as it was with any other things and advancements that we had, that the young generation at some point will be, okay, so this is what it's giving me, this is how fast I can get there, and let's build something on top of that as well. So I'm hoping that this is really where it's gonna go, but we know how it is.
I think AI has a number of uses. We're speaking about ChatGPT, and I had mentioned I use it with DALL-E 2. There's a number of other ones out there. I know Kris had sent me some images that he produced with another one. I mean, there's a number of different uses for it, and I was floored with, Kris will tell you, and a lot of people that we converse with, when DALL-E 2, when I had at first it was like the invite. You had to put your email in, and they'd send you an invite before they opened it up. And just the ability to generate all of these images and then also be able to upload an image. And I uploaded an image of myself and I said, add a woman to that picture.
Yeah.
And it literally added someone that I thought was in the picture with me, where it even adjusted the lighting, right? And then you could say,
it's the outpainting. Yeah, this is a new kind of term that emerged from DALL-E 2. Outpainting being something that I even introduced it to my daughter. She likes to paint a lot, and she saw this. She painted something. I took a picture. I put it in, and then we started adding to it, and in the same style, it started adding pieces to it. So again, it's expanding on our imagination. I think this is cool. Yeah,
it's a whole new level of abstract art. Now with this, does something like ChatGPT, which we're talking about, or any AI model such as this, does it commoditize knowledge? meaning, whereas sometimes now you think of consulting, you think of other types of professions where you're versed on, your knowledge, your experience, and your ability to understand and know. But now somebody could go in and say, like I had given an example, tell me how to post a cash receipt in Business Central. Whereas before, I would have to have some training, I would call a consultant, or, there's a number of different ways you would do it. But now it's just so easy that I don't even have to go to a search engine. I can go to ChatGPT and it will give me the information. And I will be honest in saying I haven't done a lot of processes, but I've done several processes in Business Central, and most of them were just enough to be right. Yes, there's all different variations that you could have based upon your business processes, but I was able to do the task or the job. And it's, to me, is what does it do to knowledge? I mean, either one. This is an opinion theoretical question. Obviously, I mean, it's what's your take on what it does to knowledge?
It's a difficult one. I've been thinking about it as well because you feel like I would say the Polish fiscal law is so, and I always have the battles with my friend who's an accountant. She says, no AI will ever be able to post an invoice in Poland, or pay or a payroll receipt, whatever like that, because it's too complicated and they change things all the time, so the AI wouldn't be able to keep up. But that's really the case. I'm seeing that we're advancing on some levels so fast. I even see the marketing from the marketing perspective. I don't know if you've seen some of the posts on LinkedIn for SEO, as in keywords, idea generators, refining keywords, creating contents, creating frequently asked questions. Templates for guest posting or creating follow-ups. There's a whole range of things that it does already.
It's amazing.
And it is fascinating in a way, but I think with the speed that it's progressing, some of those things will be. I don't know where's the end of it, and where we're gonna be with a lot of the professions that and content creators that now are very very useful in a way of creating this. So yeah, I
It's
don't know. I
tough
don't know the
because
answer.
technology changes so rapidly or advances so rapidly that it's difficult for someone to keep up with it, right? I mean, you can be specialized in certain things. It's like, know what know it well, do well at it. But there's so much that's going on so fast, so quickly, that it's maybe tough to learn or know what's going on, or to understand some of the new features, functionality, processes, rules, whatever you'd like to call them. Whereas if you have something such as that's automated, it knows and it's not going to forget.
I think it's going to enhance some of the tedious stuff that we normally deal with. I think one of the things that I use it for is to expand, scenarios that I would typically not have the capacity to do. For example, you guys were talking about the art and Dolly, and I was using what they call Midjourney, which is by far better than Dolly. And you take an image, an existing image, like what Brad was saying earlier, or whatever, and you just start writing. You just say, hey, I want you to draw a 3D render of a character. I think I did it with like a Mandalorian, and
This
out
is
in
the
a
way.
distant planet, and this is the way. And I said, and have him wear a suit, right? And it drew this super realistic painting in a 3D render that I can use in print. And that's from my imagination, right? So I'm not an artist, I can't draw, but I can picture it in my head.
Yeah.
I just don't know how to draw it. And so I use this tool for it to kind of put it all together for me. And it's like, this is perfect. And I don't know, I didn't have to hire anybody to draw something like that
See,
for me.
but then
or attempt
you
to
can
do
take
it.
that to any profession, right?
Yeah,
Develop me a
yeah.
report that shows me sales for 2022 by state, right? For the US, right? So I mean, is it something that you can go that way? I mean, you need to have a source of data though, and you need to have something that it can learn and know about
Yeah.
the information and how you classify it. Like I'm
And
just
that's
fascinated.
exactly, I think, where you're going to have those APIs to be used on your data sets. This is where I'm thinking that this is where it's going to go. It's good, the way it's going. I don't know if you've seen this as well. ChatGPT, not ChatGPT, GPT-3 has been in a certain version implemented in Power Platform as well. So you can generate pieces of Power Apps with natural text. So that is the concept of where you can take this at the moment. Imagine what's going to happen in a year's time, where you're going to have probably some version of GPT that will be that will know the data structure, the dataverse structure of whatever is going to be in the cloud, and then it's going to be able to create Power Platform, maybe apps and flows, and suggest flows to be used within the company. So yes, it will expand, and I think that where it's going to take us is the most relevant question, because it's going to take us there. I'm sure it's going to take us
It
there,
will take
just like
us
with
there,
you.
but also does it take us back to where knowledge becomes the commodity and people hear the terms blue collar, white collar, all types of works, where now the technical professions are the higher paid professions and some of the labor professions are the lower paying professions, which are now, building up with some of those skilled, such as electricians and plumbers. I know that the pay is increasing for some of those skilled professions. So is it we going to have like sort of the inverse of that, where the skilled professions become the valuable professions, or the people actually doing physical work, versus the individuals who are doing the intellectual work? Now it just becomes a commodity because the system can get that information for you. I mean, is this something that we're going to? And it somewhat sounds like some science fiction thing, but if you look at how fast we're moving with this, a lot of times people say, that's not happening in my lifetime. But if you see how fast this is going, again,
Yeah.
to Chris's point, Chris had a conversation with it for a sales prospect, and this is today. Give it a couple years, and where is
Yeah.
this? You might not even, someone may not even know that they're dealing with AI when they're
Yeah.
having a conversation.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that this is a topic for maybe someone who's gonna, who wrote those books about, I don't know, minimum wage or whatever, and how we're going to be treating, because as you said, it might be that the skilled professions might be the well paid. Probably we'll have to see how this evolves. At
Yeah.
the moment, we're seeing some things, and I think that if we're going to meet in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time, we're going to see a different perspective of it, because we were delaying this podcast as well for a week or two, and see how many things are happening. This is how fast it's
It
going.
is. It really is. We had some points like what I had stated. I mean, and it's just the advances in the past 2 weeks is it's mind-boggling or mind-blowing for me.
I think we're gonna become curators, more of gatekeepers of this tool, from a IT perspective. If this is available for, like, for example, in a business sense, right? Because I also asked ChatGPT to assist me in putting together some marketing content, right? And it gave amazing responses. But if you give it to all the users within your organization, I mean, everyone's just going to go all over the place. I think the role is going to switch a little bit, where some IT folks will be curators or gatekeepers of this tool. I think at some point. But personally, yeah, there's two things that I use quite a bit now is ChatGPT and Midjourney, because I need some art behind me. So I wanted to make me some art, and then I'm gonna print it out, and I can say, hey, this all came from my mind, and Midjourney was my painter.
See,
Yeah, exactly.
we'll progress in a few weeks and see art in Chris's office there, where he has these pictures showing up periodically. So this whole AI thing with me is just fascinating. I know, Kamil, you work with it quite a bit with some of the stuff that you do, and we should do a follow up in a couple months.
Oh yeah.
To see. I mean, I think a couple months. If we do 2-3 months to see where Chat GPT goes. Even more so probably after Microsoft has released it within Bing or other areas, to see how it's being used and what it's doing and what these models are, would be a good conversation.
Yeah, but speaking of some of the things that I've seen on one of the shorts that my son is watching, obviously it's about how would you like there are some chat GPT, like how would you write this article about this, and how you would some kind of tips and tricks for the for the young generation. So we'll see where this evolves in a couple of weeks or months time, and we're going to be taking votes. This is going to be one for Kris, one for Brad, one for Kamil.
Yeah, I think
where
so.
it went.
Yeah, it would be interesting. Hopefully,
have you asked ChatGPT if it ever gets better, or as it continues to progress, what's next for humans? What's next for us when ChatGPT takes over? Did you get the response?
I did, and the response was that we need to. It's fascinating what it responds, because this is exactly the piece that we need to continue educate how to live with AI in the future, and how we can make humans kind of live in a symbiosis with AI as well. Yeah, because how because of what it can do and what it can do in the future. Yeah, but it sees itself, I think, from all the elements of all of.
Does it really see itself? Is it sentient? I mean, we can go. That's a whole other conversation that we can have at another point.
No, but
It's
been taught to respond as not as a sentient one, but as it's been taught to respond in a way that it's a model. Yeah. See itself.
No, I understand, but if you hear how you yourself referenced it, you said it sees itself, right? It's how we as a civilization are referencing AI. And I think we do not have a choice but to live with it. If you go back, we didn't have a choice but to deal with the invention of the automobile, to bring up to your point, right? Everyone, if you still worked with horse and buggies, if you did not adapt to learn how to live with the automobile, you find yourself in a difficult position. Yeah. But it's just interesting to have conversations and hear how we are referencing this tool as it knows, or it sees, or it responded. It's just, it's like I said,
we had a conversation about this, Brad and I had a conversation about this a while ago too, I think late last year, about the importance of AI. And a lot of people fear AI in general because of what it can do and what it could take away, or maybe what it could add into to the society. And one of the things I had commented at the very end of that conversation is that we should embrace AI, because you look at AI as a next phase of humankind. And I think I discussed this with you, Brad, and how it is necessary for humankind to survive, the next phase of civilization, right? So it's a necessary tool for survival, and it'll get there. Because we could be interstellar, and maybe that's the next phase that's required for us to have quick information fast enough and to learn it quick enough in situations where you're out in space. You can't think fast enough. A system can do that for you. An AI can do that for you, which could help you survive in situations like that.
It's too much for me. Kamil, we have to schedule a follow-up. We'll do so for a short period of time, because I think there'll be a lot of changes, and we can get back together to talk about AI and some of the advances. And I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us on this first podcast of 2023. We hope to have many more this year, and I do hope you had a great holiday. If you would, again, please tell everyone how to get a hold of you or to reach out to you if they want to talk with you about AI or any of the other great things that you do for the community.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely. It was nice speaking to you both again, and the topic is really fascinating. If you want to reach out and discuss a lot of the data science AI projects that we're doing at DataCourage, please feel free to drop me an email at Kamil@datacourage.com or look at my LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
All right, thank you. And we'll put that in the show notes as well so that people
Thanks, Kamil.
will know how to get a hold of you. Thank you, Kamil.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right, take care.
Have a good one.
Thank you, Kris, for your time for another episode of In the Dynamics Corner Chair. And thank you to our guests for participating.
Thank you, Brad, for your time. It is a wonderful episode of Dynamics Corner Chair. I would also like to thank our guests for joining us. Thank you for all of our listeners tuning in as well. You can find Brad at developerlife.com. That is DVLPRLIFE.com. And you can interact with them via Twitter, DVLPRLIFE. You can also find me at matalino.io, MATALINO.io. And my Twitter handle is Matalino16. And you can see those links down below in the show notes. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, and take care.